Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to kick back and relax while we clean up my Porcelain Studio palette. So grab your favorite beverage and let's get started. Somehow it has been 5 years since I first got this palette when a viewer named Alan Davis sent it my way from Cheap Joe's, though you can also find a similar palette available on Jackson's Art. Both will be linked in the description. It has been well used and well loved during that time. There have been a couple of colors swapped out here and there, but on the whole, its core colors have remained largely unchanged since its initial pour. However, in the last couple of years, I have started branching out from my core color selections to often enjoy unique colors here or there. Perhaps I want to use this one color for this painting and another unique color for that one. I started adding these specialty colors to the inside mixing areas so I would have access to them. But honestly, it's gotten to the point where the whole thing is pretty overwhelming if I'm being honest. Being in a new studio, in a new apartment, in a new state, I figured now was a great time to check in with myself and evaluate what I want for my new workspace. Do I regularly use all of these colors? Which colors have I refilled several times? Which of them have been here for the last 5 years without needing a refill, meaning I don't use them? Are the colors that I don't use often still essential for certain projects, or can I get rid of them altogether? What colors do I find myself wishing that I had easier access to? Now here's where I'll say that painting as a content creator and painting for myself are two different modes, so to speak. For starters, I have nearly 20 single brand palettes that I use for specific reviews or tutorials, at least half of which I would not own if I were just a hobbyist painter or even a working professional artist who didn't record videos. I also have another half dozen palettes that are multi-brand curated palettes, meaning that I have picked out my favorite colors from various brands to put on one palette that I enjoy using all together. My studio palette here is the largest version of that type of palette. The purpose of my studio palette is to be my main go-to palette that I can paint just about anything I want at any given time using the palette that lives on top of my desk. It includes a lot of palette staples, as well as some of my favorite specialty colors that I find myself going back to over and over again. However, even with 30 colors, it can be hard to narrow down our favorites, and I won't be able to include every single color that I want to paint with for the rest of time. The messy palette that you have been seeing is this palette's normal state of being. I may clean the mixing areas a couple times a year, usually when I need the palette in a shot for a video, or if I need a clean spot to mix a light color such as a yellow mixture that I don't want contaminated with darker colors. I say this both to encourage you that you don't need a pristine palette to paint with, but also to try and get ahead of the people who may be upset that I'm cleaning it off or wasting paint. I assure you, all of the paint that I could remove was saved and put in half pans. Everything that was stuck to the palette was soaked and cleaned off. Some colors and brands are more difficult than others. Could I have painted some random abstract paintings or bookmarks with the leftover paint instead of washing it off? Sure. Did I want to, and would it have brought me joy? No, not really. It would have taken additional time and resources without bringing me personally any enjoyment. Even though I do know that there are a lot of other people who enjoy that style. If you'll allow me to get a little deep here for a few moments, the past 7 months have been extremely important to me in being able to get back on track with my mental health and manage my chronic pain. I've been pulling myself out of a really deep depression and making really serious efforts to reduce the physical clutter in my life so that my anxiety brain can rest a little bit easier. I actively do a lot in my daily life to conserve resources, waste as little as possible, and donate the things that I no longer need. So while I understand that some people might react to this portion of the video with, "Oh no, you're wasting all of that paint," please also recognize that it's okay for someone to say, "I need a fresh start." It's okay to let things go that are no longer serving you without guilt. Chronic pain, anxiety, depression, executive dysfunction, and a million other things can make tiny tasks feel impossible, especially in the world we're living in today. So recognize that what may be easy for you might not be easy for someone else or vice versa. All of that being said, I collected as much of the wastewater as I could painstakingly with a tiny little pipette to reduce the amount of paint that I would be pouring down the sink. And I think I only used about 4 paper towels and 1 reusable rag to wipe up what I couldn't collect with a pipette. I gave a shout out to Who Gives a Crap in my studio tour, but I do feel the need to give them another one here. I used their forest-friendly bamboo sugarcane paper towels, and they performed phenomenally here. They were super sturdy and soaked up so much water before maxing out. Now that everything is all cleaned up, it is time for the refill. Originally, when I filled this palette, I filled the palette, which was a mistake in more ways than one. These wells are massive, and there are still colors today that I haven't had to refill since 2017. Some other colors I rarely use, and I've gathered new favorites along the way that I've wanted to make room for as well. However, the biggest reason that I would suggest not filling your wells up entirely in a large palette like this is that when I need a single color, like burnt sienna for example, I would need to get the paint out of the well and then use the center mixing area to dilute the wash to whatever consistency I am looking for. This takes up a valuable mixing space, so if we only fill the palette halfway, we can dilute single colors in their own wells without needing to occupy more space in the center. I am going to leave you to it, and I will be back when everything comes together. Once all of the paints found homes in their new wells, it was time to label them. I was out of 1/2-inch masking tape, so I used 2 strips of 1/4-inch tape instead. The color name is on the top and the pigment numbers and brands are on the bottom. This is for my own personal reference when it comes to retime to fill them or when I tell you guys about what colors I'm using, but I don't really think about it while I'm using the palette for an actual painting session. And now it's time for the final lineup. I will state the names and they are listed in the subtitles, but patrons will also have access to more details about brand preferences, etc. over on Patreon if you'd like to check that out. Green Gold by Da Vinci, PY 129. Lemon Yellow by Daniel Smith, PY 175. Da Vinci Yellow by Da Vinci, PY 154. Transparent Pyrrole Orange by Daniel Smith, PO 71. Da Vinci Red by Da Vinci, PR 254. Alizarin Crimson Quinacridone by Da Vinci, PV 19. Quinacridone Rose by Daniel Smith, PV 19. Potter's Pink by Schmincke, PR 233. Perling Violet by Schmincke, PV 29. Shadow Violet by Roman Schmal, PG 50, PB 29, and PV 19. Anthraquinone Blue by M. Graham, PB 60. Ultramarine Deep by Sennelier, PB 29. Cerulean Blue by M. Graham, PB 36. Phthalo Turquoise by Windsor and Newton, PB 16. Cobalt Teal by M. Graham, PB 28. Phthalo Green Blue Shade by Daniel Smith, PG 7. Denise's Green by Da Vinci, PY 129 and PB 60. Forest Brown by Schmincke, PBR 7, PG 26, and PY 43. Perylene Green by Da Vinci, PBK 31. A custom mixed gray using PB 36 and PR 101. Yellow Ochre by Daniel Smith, PY 43. Raw Sienna Deep by Da Vinci, PY 42. Quinacridone Gold by Daniel Smith, PO 49. Quinacridone Burnt Orange by Daniel Smith, PO 48. Burnt Sienna by Daniel Smith, PBR 7. Terra Rosa by M. Graham, PR 101. Piemontite Genuine by Daniel Smith, Burnt Umber by Daniel Smith, PBR7, Raw Umber by Da Vinci, PBR7, Neutral Tint by Daniel Smith, PBK6, PV19, and PB15. Here is the before, and here is the after. It ended up being quite a long cleaning sesh. I am very pleased to arrive at both a metaphorical and physical fresh start in my studio. I'm looking forward to being able to create again, and that is in large part due to this aspiring array of colors that I truly enjoy painting with. You may notice that there are some pretty big gaps in some areas of my palette, like the magentas and purples, so if you'd like to hear more about my color selections, again, you can head on over to Patreon for the full blog post. I also have a new tier, so if you want me to create a custom palette for you, you can check out more details if you're interested. Thank you to my amazing patrons for supporting me and the channel, and to all of you watching for being here today. Give the video a like if you enjoyed it, to let me know about some of your must-have colors in the comments below, and feel free to subscribe if you'd like to see more watercolor content moving forward. Until next time, my friends, happy painting!